Good morning, TRIMET board. My name is Jared Franz. I'm the Public Policy and Advocacy Coordinator for ATU 757, the union that represents TRIMET employees. And I mean the essential employees of TRIMET, not the private security that's in this room, or the transit cops that are out harassing riders. I'm here to express the union's support for a moratorium on fare sweeps, for the demilitarization and decriminalization of our public transit system, and to call for a participatory budgeting process. Look, cops don't make riders and drivers safer. Drivers especially know this. They often spend 45 minutes or longer waiting for the response to a call that they get. And most of the safety and security that happens on the bus happens because of social pressures or other interventions that happen on the bus from other riders or well-informed, well-trained drivers. More cops, more guns do not make people safer. It's security theater and a favorite tool of white supremacy. The union supports decriminalized, non-militarized solutions to fare inspection, like fare inspectors that the professional union busters at TRIMET have systematically gotten rid of over the years and replaced with armed cops. We also support rider advocates, a program that used to exist, a robust program that used to exist here at TRIMET, that put community members from impacted communities on buses to interface with drivers and riders to provide information and de-escalation. It was a popular program that was defunded by TRIMET to make more money available for armed cops. We also support a participatory budget process, and I'm going to be really quick on why this is necessary. It is never true when TRIMET says they can't afford to do what riders and drivers ask for. What they mean is that they have other priorities for the hundreds of millions of dollars that the agency has. So let's be honest. Let's stop misleading the public and saying we can't afford X or we can't afford Y, and start saying we have different priorities than you. Community priorities, worker priorities are not reflected in the TRIMET budget. The TRIMET jail is only the latest example of this. But you don't have to look very far to find shenanigans in the TRIMET budget. $95 million, in fact. You can look this up. It's line 4 on your capital projects, page 1 in your budget. $95 million this year of operating funds, the funds that you always say you never have enough of, are getting transferred to capital projects this year for construction projects, right? And at the same time, we are being asked to support a statewide regressive wage tax on workers so that TRIMET can have more money, presumably to transfer it into their capital construction projects to build a bigger, better jail in a few years. Community priorities need to be represented in this budget. Worker priorities need to be represented in this budget. We demand a stop to fair enforcement sweeps, to militarized and armed cops, and the immediate beginning of a participatory budget process. Thanks.
I believe that if something is principled, it is good no matter who does it to whom, and it's bad no matter who does it to whom. If it can be a law that's enforced, then it should be an enforceable law. So, if it is an arrestable offense or an excuse to jail someone, which has the probable results of unemployment, houselessness, loss of children, children losing their schools and education, worsening health or death, to be riding on publicly owned roads and rails with publicly funded vehicles, with publicly funded employees, because someone does not have in-time validated fare, then I want you to immediately post and publish your policy for removing all of the board, administration, and employees who have made it so that the vehicles and the routes are not well planned, not well maintained to be on time, within the allotted time, that you don't have fair machines that validate it reliably, that you don't have the pay equipment on the bus working reliably, that you don't have enough vehicles in the right routes, in the right locations, and you don't have the right policy to be inclusive of people of low income, of short-term disabilities, of crises, and that you don't have a good policy for de-escalating the tensions that having terrorists on board with guns threatening certain people, certain classes against the Constitution, you're poor, you're people of color, you have a political agenda that people don't like, or a religious minority, that escalates tension by all. So those of us who are hard-working, tax-paying, small business owners and volunteers in the community say, this is a waste of my money. I'm no longer going to vote for or fund TRIMET because you're not providing the services. You've been lying to us. You've been unfair. And you are creating a society of distrust and alienation, of despair and terrorism, so that our young children do not want to ride public transit. They're not wanting to vote for it. They're not wanting to engage in civic responsibility. They're giving up hope, so they're going to go to the streets, go to direct action, go to violence, because you're not allowing better alternatives. So if this is an arrestable offense, then you can all be arrested because you're guilty in causing it.
All right, I'm going to close the public forum. You know, we are going to be taking action on the budget and other items today, and I don't know whether you're going to be remaining around to hear those actions. I thought it important because I want to make clear, especially for you folks who are here, and I thank you all for coming. And we did listen, and we do hear you and understand your positions and that you feel about this very passionately. I think this board's positions and actions have been really entirely consistent over the last few years with what you folks are looking for. And I just want to remind you and talk about things. We gave you the opportunity, so this is to you.
That's law.
Let me just tell you what I believe we've done in the last 4 or 5 years related to fair enforcement, fines and violations, low-income fares, and an increase in transit service, because they are all entirely consistent with what you've been saying. On the issue of disparate fare enforcement and exclusions, I want to make it clear, if you're not aware, this board actually directed staff to work with Portland State to come up with a study to examine if there were disparate actions being taken in fare enforcement. And while the study said overall there wasn't disparity impacts, you're right, it did definitely show that African Americans were excluded from the system on a more regular basis in more numbers than the majority or other minorities. And we took that very seriously, and we actually worked with the district attorneys and with staff that we said, you know, it is not right that we have people who get a criminal record as a result of a $2.50 fare issue. And we worked very closely with the district attorneys to, again, decide we should no longer move forward in prosecuting those, and frankly not clogging the courts. What's it called? TRIMET Tuesday, is that what it used to be? When people would come to the courts. And we said there's got to be a better way of doing that. And we asked staff to come up with some ideas. And I think many of you are aware that we actually are proposing legislation to decriminalize fare enforcement and trying to work on a way to deal with it administratively so that it does not become a blemish on somebody's record for criminal purposes. And we actually can work with folks in other ways to deal with the fare evasion that they've taken. And I think some of you are down there in Salem now, and I want to say I appreciate your help in dealing with that. I think the bill has been heard by one house is going to be heard by another house, probably the Senate later this week, and maybe we can declare victory on that one. On the issue of low-income fares, I can't say enough that, you know, this board, especially the person sitting to my left and your right from me, has really talked a lot about access to public transportation being a true road to prosperity. That's something that's really needed. And we believe that, and we put together with Metro a task force on low-income fares and what we ought to be doing for low-income fares. I think we met for about 3 months, I believe, and came up with some recommendations for a program that would work. And Jared, you're right, it's all about priorities and issues, whether we want to have tracks in good condition, keep the trains running, or we want to do some other things. We said we really can't afford that without some new increase in resources. And I think together we've been working with the legislature to enact some new resources at the state level that I think have a good chance of being passed this session that will allow us to fund the low-income fare program for this region. And I think that will be a great attribute for many, many people who can't afford, frankly, to pay for public transportation. You know, and I guess the other thing I need to say here is safety is probably the #1 concern of this board with our transit system.
There's one more thing.
I came on board.
Tara Johnson.
I came on board 5 years ago when there was a lot of discussion about TRIMET system being unsafe. This board did increase transit police and did increase enforcement. And the numbers show that we have been successful in terms of the system being safer, in terms of aggravated assaults, thefts, and other things. So whether you like it or not, I'm just letting you know that the system. So I will not argue with you that the killing of somebody is unconscionable.
Use his name!
So.
He's a Johnson. Use his name!
So, I don't know him, so I'm sorry.
You don't know his name!
So, the bottom line is, what I'm telling you.
If you don't know him, you're a hypocrite!
All right.
He was 24.
So all I wanted to say on that is we do believe in safety for
Shut
our
up.
drivers, for our riders, and for the public, and we are gonna do what we need to do to ensure that safety. That doesn't mean we cannot be smarter in terms of the way we do it. And I think a number of the suggestions you have, we made today, are things that we ought to pursue further. In terms of participatory budgeting, we did do a lot of participation on our budget. And this obviously today shows that people are aware of the budget and are here. But that does not mean that we can't do that better either. So I think your suggestions about how we can do it better will be taken seriously, and I think maybe that's something we can talk about, Mr. General Manager, in the upcoming budget processes. So I just wanted to make it clear, again, I believe overall our objectives are the same. And I hope that you will continue to work with us to improve the system out there, because our desire is to have a system that is accessible to all, and is safe for all, and affordable for all. So again, I probably said more than I need to. Any of the other board members wish to say anything this morning, so I just move on to the regular agenda. Okay, I want to move on to the regular agenda then. With that, I'm going to call the business meeting for Wednesday, May 24th to order. And we'll start with our board reports, which is, the first is Director Bauman. Can you please give us a report on the Committee on Accessible Transportation?
Yes, thank you. Good morning. The CAT met on May 17th, and this is a short report on the highlights of the business meeting. Lieutenant Rachel Andrew provided an update on the transit police activity and responded to CAT member questions. Claudia Robertson, the CAT Vice Chair and Nominating Committee Facilitator, presented recommendations for appointment for CAT membership for terms beginning July 1st of this year. And the CAT passed a motion to approve the nominating committee's recommendations as presented. And the CAT's recommendations will be forwarded to the general manager for consideration for appointment. Next, there was a presentation about capital projects by Michael Kaiser. There's an update about the Division Transit Project and also information on the swing gate installation on the Orange Line. And there was responses to CAT member questions about that improvement. Next, there was a report on the status of the Morrison and Yamhill project by Clay Thompson, who's the coordinator of outreach services